All right, I have 8:30. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It looks like everybody is here. And do an attendance roll call. And just remind everybody that this is a public recorded Zoom meeting, so just keep that in mind. I'm here, Joe Anderson, Lieutenant from Wakefield PD, Traffic Advisory Chair. I have Steve Mayo, Town Administrator. I have Joe Conway, DPW Director. Randy Hudson from the Fire Department, in charge of traffic signals. I have Dan and Lois Benjamin. I have Bill Renault from DPW Engineering. And I believe Chief Scory is also on with us. Am I missing anybody from the committee?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, and Matt's here too. How you doing, Matt?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad.
Mr. Anderson, I am here too.
All right. And I have Chris out from DPW.
Mike Sullivan too, Joe.
Oh, Chief, how you doing? All right, I believe everybody is here. Item number 2 on the agenda is approval of meeting minutes from August 21st, 2020, the last meeting we had, and February 14th, 2020. Entertain a motion to approve those meeting minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Bill Renault. You have a second on that?
I'll second.
Who was that?
Steve Mayo.
All right, Steve Mayo. Second by Steve Mayo. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Joe, Lieutenant, can you mark me as aye on the February meeting, but as abstaining on the 21st because I was not there?
Okay, we'll do. Okay, moving on to item number 3, public engagement. So what we typically do for public engagement is go through any emails that were submitted to traffic advisory for public engagement. And if there's anybody here that would like to speak on a topic that isn't covered by our agenda, I'll give you a few minutes to speak to the committee. If not, I would ask that you wait until we call the agenda item so we can keep everything kind of together. So is there anybody here that has something that isn't covered by an agenda item that would like to speak? You can unmute yourself and just identify yourself and give you some time to talk. All right, so I have one email that isn't related to an agenda item. It's from a resident of Spring Street, Sean Reynolds. Writes to the committee that he'd like to discuss options for increasing stop sign obeyance by drivers at the intersection of Greenwood and Spring Streets. He resides in a house that's near the intersection, and he watches people not stop at all for the stop sign there. He says that he sees vehicles appear to travel through at about 15 plus miles an hour without slowing or stopping. He identifies the neighborhood as in transition with young families. He notes that there's no sidewalk on the east side of Greenwood, and it's dangerous for kids on bikes and pedestrians. He notes that he's called the police department a few times, and there's been some enforcement, but it doesn't appear to have changed any driving behavior. And he looks forward to discussing with the committee what options might be available for lasting impact on traffic safety at the intersection. It says a proactive response to this concern shared by many residents would be far cheaper and beneficial than a reactive one due to an accident or injury. So is there anybody here, including Mr. Reynolds, that would like to speak about Spring and Greenwood, that intersection there? All right, so I did reply to Mr. Reynolds. I'm not sure what type of measures we could employ there, Matt or Bill. Do you know of any for a four-way intersection that would kind of increase obeyance to stop signs? I mean, typically for us, it's been enforcement is unfortunately the only way to really gain some compliance there. And I think a lot of the reckless driving has kind of increased since COVID for some reason. I don't know if people's heads are in a different place or there's less traffic. I don't know what's going on with it, but there's definitely an increase throughout town at different intersections.
Yeah, I mean, I would say enforcement's probably the best approach on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you want to go, installing flashing beacons everywhere. I think it really has to be enforcement.
Well, I did tell him that I would look at the intersection, so I'll take a look at that. And if it does look like there's anything that would be worth bringing back to the committee to discuss, I'll definitely do that and put that on a future agenda item, and we can discuss any options.
Yeah, if you want to send me an email, I can look at it as well.
Sure, that'd be great. Anybody else for public engagement that has something for the committee that is not discussed on an agenda item before we move on? All right, hearing no one, I'll move on to item number 4, new development review. Item 4A is 581 to 583 Salem Street. It's a proposed development for a 19-unit mid-rise apartment building, and that was sent to us from the Board of Appeals. Is there anybody here to speak on?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I may, Attorney Brian McGrail.
Hi, Brian, how you doing?
Fine. How are you, Lieutenant?
Not too bad.
Good. Members of the committee. For the record, Attorney Brian McGrail representing the applicant on this matter. With us this morning on behalf of the applicant, Ocean City Development, is Bill Mandel, who is on the screen, and Jim Cook. They are the two principals involved with the entity. And also on board this morning are the folks at Hayes Engineering. You can see them in their block. That's John Ogren and Bill Bergeron. As you mentioned, Lieutenant, this is a project that's well on its way with the Board of Appeals. We've had at least 2 hearings at this point. It's as usual, projects of this nature are referred to the Traffic Advisory Committee to provide a memo and comment to the zoning board. As Bill will detail, I'll just give you the basics, but Bill Bergeron, I'm sure, will go into a bit more detail. This project is situated at 581, 583, and 581, 583 rear Salem Street, which is down near the Winfield line on Salem Street. These are kind of a mishmash of properties and operations that are going on down there. Currently, there's a 3-unit apartment building. There's a small office building on this lot. There's a gym operation, which is about 4,000, health and fitness type center, which is like 4,000 square feet. 2 buildings on the site plus. And the proposal is to replace all of this with a new 19-unit building that will include affordable housing as required by the town of Wakefield. We have, I think, a very nice site plan, nice architectural plans that have been presented and have been so far well received by the zoning board. Right now, when you drive by that property, it's really kind of, there's no access point. It's just wide open pavement all along. There's no sidewalks for pedestrians. And part of the process that we will do is we're going to install granite curbing and public sidewalks within the right of way, and also access points that will function very well. With that said, I'm going to hand it over to Bill and John, if I may, to take you through some more detail with some of the traffic analysis that they've performed as it relates to the project.
Sure, that'd be great. And just so everybody that's watching knows, if you go on the town's website, look at our agenda, there's 2 links there. The second one has all of the materials that the committee members are looking at, and I'm sure that they'll tell us more about. So if you want to look at that too, and Brian, you can have them step up for
Great. Bill and John, you want to take it from here?
Yep. John Ogren, Hayes Engineering. Do you intend on allowing us to do any sharing at all, Lieutenant Anderson, or?
Sure, you could do that, or if you want, I have it on the agenda if there's something that isn't specific that isn't on here, but I can have you share your screen.
I just at least a site plan, it might be helpful. Just
let me all right, see if you can share. I think I allowed you to.
I might not seeing it. Can you see that?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, as Brian said, existing site. It's located, this is actually made up of two parcels. There's a parcel that contains a gym, office, apartment, and then there's a two-family parcel out in front. Both those parcels together is about 24,600 square feet. As far as what's in the neighborhood to the east of us is multifamily, and also towards the rear. To the south of us, basically across the street, there's an apartment building. On the west side, we have basically the yard for Wakefield Municipal Gas and Light Department. And then basically to the north, behind us is Route 128. In terms of zoning, the majority of the site is business, but there is a zone line that cuts off the triangular piece in the back, and that's single residence. As far as what we're proposing, as Brian said, 19-unit, 4-story building. It's going to be sited out near, closer to Salem Street. It's going to be serviced by surface parking with an entrance on the west side, parking along the side and the rear. Total number, just a breakdown of the units. We have 3 one-bedroom and 16 two-bedroom units. Surface parking is a total of 29 parking spaces, and that complies with the requirements of the zoning bylaw of 1.5 spaces per 1 or 2 bedroom units. Other than that, I think that's pretty much summarized it. We do have, some access as far as walkways around the site itself. One other thing I should point out, handicap parking. The main entrance to this building is actually, shouldn't say the main, but one of the entrances is to the rear. There's an entrance here, and on this side here, there's nothing along Salem Street. And so we have 2 handicap spaces, which have access directly to that entrance in the rear. I think that's about it.
John, can you touch on the sidewalk situation? What's there
Yeah.
now, what we're going to propose?
I mean, what we're proposing for a sidewalk is basically along our frontage, along this area in here. We'll end up having a grass plot, vertical granite curbing, a grass plot, the reason for the grass plot is there are utility poles out here, and then a 5-foot sidewalk behind that grass plot. Again, along the length of our frontage. On this side of Salem Street, there are no sidewalks to the east or west. There is an existing sidewalk on the opposite side of Salem Street.
And would you mind telling us a little bit about any traffic studies?
Yep. I'll turn that over to Bill Bergeron.
Awesome, thank you.
Good afternoon or good morning. My name is Bill Bergeron, work for Hayes Engineering, and our office is probably 100 yards from this proposed building. And we've been here, I've been here for 36 years, so I have a pretty good understanding of what the traffic conditions are on Salem Street here. And other than the fact that if there's a problem on 128 in the morning, then we end up with the problems with traffic going on there. But other than that, it's just been a normal kind of a condition. I did prepare a traffic assessment. It's dated June 29th, 2020. I don't know if you have copies of that in front of you or not, but it did do an assessment of the existing use and the proposed use based on the ITE standards. And based on that, we will have a potential decrease of average daily traffic of about 68 vehicles per day. It results in about a 2-vehicle decrease in the morning peak hour and about a 25 vehicle decrease in the PM peak hour. One of the things that obviously that we're concerned about is improving what the existing conditions are. The entire frontage, if you go out to the site or if you have a copy of my traffic impact assessment, I did provide photos of the existing conditions on Salem Street. And we have approximately a required a required site distance of about 188 feet in the westbound and 202 feet in the eastbound. The available site distances are 580 feet and 700 feet. So the available site distance for the access the way we've got it proposed would be sufficient for speeds of 60 miles an hour plus. So we don't anticipate that. The posted speed is 30, and it's pretty close to that because of the approach to the intersection at Pleasure Island Road. So that's signal control does slow down traffic. And it's typical of our experience with several projects we've done in this section that the speeds are typically in that 30 mile per hour range. So it's not a significant change from what we have. But the one thing that we do see all along this whole side of Salem Street is basically it's a paved apron out to the street with no defined accesses or curbing. So it's basically a free-for-all along the entire frontage. So the proposal is to actually have granite curbing, the sidewalk installed with the tree lawn, and having a defined access point with the curb radii out to the edge of the travel way, so that we do have a controlled intersection. It would be much safer for the actual site because you'll have a defined access point into and out of the site. It'll be better if there are any pedestrians. Most of the people walk on the other side of the roadway where the sidewalks actually are. However, this will provide a pedestrian access along the frontage here and allow them to either walk across the street or continue on where there are no sidewalks. But it will be a protected area, and with vertical curbing, they're basically non-mountable curbing, so it would also improve pedestrian safety as far as that's concerned. So basically, the conclusion of the assessment was that it was going to be a significant improvement to the area, and that there was no significant increases to the traffic. In fact, we anticipate there being a decrease in the traffic. So there was no net change as a result of the proposed project. That basically is it, I think. I mean, I can go into more detail about the IT stuff, but it basically conforms to everything within the ITE standards, and we've got a decrease in traffic with the proposed project.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. Bill and Matt, we'll start with Bill. Anything on your end from the study?
No, not at all.
Matt? Any
No,
questions?
I reviewed the trip generation as well as the site distance calcs and the pictures, and everything looks good there. I just had one question related to access and where the curbing is going to be on the east side of your site. I see from the colored rendering of the plan that that's all going to be green space to the east, but is that actually going to be curbing along that eastern edge as well?
Which edge are you talking? I guess over here.
Yeah.
No, we weren't proposing any curving there. The curving would stop out at Salem Street.
Okay.
There is a driveway access. There's actually a right of way here for accessing some of the abutting properties. The access is not on our property, but no, we were just planning on basically it's just going to be landscaped up to the edge of pavement.
Okay. Yeah, that was my next question. Was I just want to make sure that was you're getting rid of pavement and that's going to be landscaped.
Yes.
And then my only other question was whether or not fire was okay with access to the building. I'm sure you've already discussed that with them, but I was just curious.
We did get comments back from the fire department, and there wasn't anything in terms of access.
Okay.
Chief Sullivan, if you're still on, any issues on the fire department's end? All right,
Well,
anybody,
I think we're all set.
anybody from the public that would like to discuss this agenda item for 581, 583 Salem Street? All right, so
And then, can I ask a question? This is Steve Mayo.
I see.
Hi, Bill Renault, can you look for me how far it is to the intersection at Audubon Road there from this building? And the reason why I'm asking that is I'd like to think about pedestrian access there on that side of the street. You know, we're going to have 19 units here, and I think that there will be people that may want to walk on that side of the street and then take a right on and go to either the health club at the Colonial, assuming it's still there, maybe up the hill there to Market Street. That's not a bad walk for people. I do that walk occasionally from my house. It's probably a mile away. I'd just like to look at that, and so I can look, and maybe we can put that in some future.
Section, I don't think it goes down any further.
Yeah, it's not that far, Steve.
Yeah, it's about 750 feet.
Yeah,
There's a lot of.
Mr. Mayor, this is Brian McGrail. I can add to that because I represent some people further down. I don't know the context of what they're going to propose, what it will be, but I've made them aware that in the redevelopment of their properties, they have to plan on putting sidewalks in.
Great, because I'd like to tie that all in.
So I know further down in the direction you're talking about, there's other properties that will be coming forward at some point in time. I don't know exactly when yet, and but they're well aware that they're going to have to spend the money to put public sidewalks into.
Great.
So there could be some good private improvements to some of the public infrastructure out here.
Perfect. I like that. Thank you.
The other thing I just wanted to point out, Mr. Chair, if I may, one of the discussions with the chair of the zoning board was the parking count. I think they're expecting some comment from your board on that. We meet the zoning requirement, which is all we can do. That's always been the perspective of John Kennedy when he sat on this board. That's always our goal, is to meet that requirement, and I think that's realistically all we can be asked to do.
Well, I agree. The only concern I had was whether the handicap spots actually took place of a couple of those overall spots, or if they were separate. So were they included in the 29 or however many spots?
Are we still open?
What was he asking?
Are we still open?
Yeah, you're open. The question, John, is on our parking count. Are the handicap included in the required number?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, which they always are. Yeah.
I just wanted to point out that the 1.5 is what, within the bounds that the ITE recommends for parking for this type of a facility. So it is within the bounds of that. And I actually kind of went through a report that VHB had done on another project, and they had the same recommendation that if it falls between the one above the 1.5 or at 1.5, that it basically conforms. So it not only it conforms to the town standard, it also conforms to what ITE would recommend.
Sure. No, it definitely looks like it's in compliance from the town standard. I just wanted to make that clarification whether those spots are included in the overall. But I don't have any parking concerns for this development. It looks like it's well within the bylaws and for its location too. I think it's going to be fine now. All right. Anybody else have anything to discuss with item 4A?
I just have one other comment on this, and I apologize for keep interjecting, but the zoning board is actually meeting Wednesday night on this.
Okay.
And I think they're pretty close to concluding. We've been very thorough with our submittals to them. So if there's any possibility where this is rather straightforward, if some type of correspondence could be sent to them within that time frame by Wednesday, it would be appreciated if that's at all possible.
Oh, sure, Brian. That's not a problem. Not a problem at all. Matt, do you think you could draft a quick memo on that, either Matt or Bill? It's pretty straightforward. So,
Yeah, no problem. That's a very quick one.
okay, appreciate that. All right, moving on to item 4B, 610 Salem Street development. This is a 30-unit mid-rise apartment building. It's a Board of Appeals application review. Brian, are you on this as well?
Yeah, same team, Mr. Chairman, myself and the folks from Hayes Engineering are on, and I can't tell if the client is on, Paul Caggiano. He's probably dialed in here and listening. But in any event, this is a proposal right in the vicinity across the street. Again, as you will hear, there's infrastructure, public infrastructure for pedestrians that is going to be proposed here as far as improvements in the whole area. This site is the former site of the Taylor rental site. You folks might be familiar with that, the tool rental building where I used to get my propane gas all the time years ago. In any event, what we're proposing here is a 30-unit building. And I'm gonna, I think it's probably best that I just hand it over to John and Bill from here to take you through this project.
Okay, sounds good.
Is it okay if I share again?
Absolutely.
Okay, as Brian stated, this is the old site of the rental equipment company. There's an existing building, some parking around it. Just to orientate yourself a little bit, to the east is the Saugus River and the town line between Wakefield and Linfield. There's an apartment building to the west. There's also an apartment building behind the site. This site is about 44,500 square feet. It's located, the majority of it is located in the business zone, but there is, again, a piece that's single residence along the back. The site itself is fairly flat. You'll see this paved area here. I just want to at least mention there is, this is a driveway access to the apartments that exist behind this property. This driveway access is not on our property, and we do not have rights for access to that. So that's why, in case you're wondering why we're not utilizing that driveway. What we're proposing is a 4-story building, total of 30 units, 7 1-bedroom, 23 2-bedroom. Our single entrance into parking. We have some surface parking, and we also have a parking garage on the first level. There's a total proposed of 56 parking spaces. 39 are inside the building and 17 are outside on surface parking. What would be required for that 30 units based on the zoning with 1.5 spaces per 2 or less bedrooms would be 45. So on this site, we have over what's required in the zoning. Handicap spaces, there's 3 as required. There's 1 here in the surface parking right by the main entrance. And then there's 2 handicap spaces inside the building that have pretty much direct access to the elevator in this area.
You mind just repeating the number of units and parking spaces again for me? I apologize.
Yep. It's a total of 30 units, 7 are 1-bedroom, 23 are 2-bedroom. Required parking spaces is 45. We're proposing 56, 39 in the building, and 17 are outside on surface parking.
Thank you.
I'll turn it over to Bill.
Well, good morning again. I did provide a traffic impact assessment for this. It's dated July 20th, 2020. And basically it's very similar in nature to what we just discussed from 581. Our driveway is actually adjacent to this. John and I are basically looking at this building right now. And as I indicated, being in this location for 36 years, pretty familiar with the traffic conditions that are in this area. The proposed apartment will end up with a total increase of maybe 117 vehicle trips per day on a daily basis, but the AM peak hour will result in about a 6 vehicle trip increase, and the PM peak hour actually ends up with actually matching what the existing conditions would have been with the rental place. So there's no significant increase or decrease relative to actual peak hour conditions. It's just that the apartment type use is spread out more during the day than the business use was. Again, the stopping site distances required for this are in the 200 foot range, and we have over 800 feet in each direction. So it's well over the available distances that would be required for 60 miles an hour plus. And as I indicated, our typical experience in the area is that it basically is in the 30-mile-an-hour range or less with the actual conditions that are on site. The entire frontage of this does have a concrete sidewalk. However, when it was installed, because the parking for the retail center was all set up in front of it, the entire frontage of this is basically set up as a access apron. So there is no concentrated location for access in and out of the site. The proposal will be to actually install vertical granite curbing similar to what we were talking about on 581 in front of the site, adjust the sidewalk as necessary, and actually construct a located entrance with vertical granite curbing on that easterly portion of the site towards the Linfield line. It's as far away from the existing driveways we can get it, so there's no interference with that driveway. And with the minimal traffic coming in and out of the site, we don't envision that being any particular problem. In the traffic assessment, I did provide you with photos in both general directions showing you what the existing conditions were and the fact that basically we have a flush sidewalk with the edge of the road. So like all of the reasons on the prior one, putting the vertical granite curbing, having a separation distance for the non-mountable curb to where the sidewalk section is, and continuing this sidewalk with the existing sidewalk that does go up this portion of the southerly side of Salem Street will provide the connections that I think we're looking for, extending up towards Dunkin' Donuts in the actual intersection. So basically the results of the impact assessment are that there's no significant change to the existing conditions, and basically they will remain almost as currently exists.
Hey, John, can you touch on the sidewalk on this?
Well, I think I can state what Bill basically stated. As he said, it's basically flush now. The sidewalk is flush. There's no curbing out in front of the site. So there is an existing sidewalk out there. What we were proposing was to remove that sidewalk, put in a vertical granite curb, and then reconstruct the sidewalk.
Great thing. And again, that will be done at the at our expense, not the town's.
The only other question I have is about handicap spaces. How many? For
There's 3 total, 1 outside, 2 inside.
all right, Bill, any questions on your end or comments?
No, not at all. They've addressed it in some previous filings with the CONSCOM and as well. So we've already, all of my comments have been addressed previously.
Okay. Matt, anything from what you've seen?
Just one question. Is the vegetation that you can see on the westbound approach photo, is that vegetation on your site right below the Linfield sign?
Yes, and the recommendations I put down that we will trim that back.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, any members of the public out there that would like to discuss this development? Item 4B, 610 Salem Street.
Joe?
Yes, Steve.
On both of those sites, and since we have the same engineer, and I meant to mention this on 581 Salem, I think that it would be beneficial for your projects, actually, to consider some electric charging stations in your development. I mean, I think that might be beneficial to think about for the future. So now's the time to do it when you're digging up everything. So just a suggestion.
No, I think that's a good point. You've seen them with quite a few new developments in town, and I think that would definitely be something to look into.
Thank you. Understood.
All right, so no members of the public. Anybody else from the committee have anything they'd like to comment on as far as item 4B? Brian, when would you need a memo on this one for?
This one that doesn't have the urgency because we're just about to commence with the Board of Appeals.
But I think, Matt, maybe we could get both off. They're both very similar. And
Yeah, that makes sense to put them both in the same memo.
Okay. All right, so we'll do that, Brian. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you, members of the committee.
All right, moving on to item 4C. This is 200 Quantipower Parkway, proposed mixed-use development, 485 residential units with 10,000 square feet of mixed use to be divided between 5,000 square feet of retail and 5,000 square feet of restaurant. This is a transportation scoping request, and I'll turn it over to whoever's here from Van Ness and Associates.
It's me again,
Okay.
the chairman. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. And Giles Ham is here, and I see Matt D'Amico, who's representing the principals, Cabot and Forbes, who's a proposed developer on the site. What we have here for you, as you had mentioned, is pretty simple and straightforward. We're really not looking to talk about the project in detail in any way. We have not even filed with the Board of Appeals yet. So it's really all we're looking for to accomplish today is to get the scope of the traffic study that you would anticipate. We just want to be on the same page with the Traffic Advisory Committee that once we make our formal filing with the zoning board, that we will be doing a traffic study that will meet your standards and look at what you want evaluated, so we don't end up back before your Traffic Advisory Committee saying, gee, you should have done this, you should have done that. So really not looking to discuss the project in detail in any way, because technically it doesn't exist yet because we haven't filed. Again, just looking to get on the same page with a scope. So with that said, I guess I'll hand it over to Giles Ham, who is our traffic consultant with Vanessa.
Good morning, everybody. Giles Ham with Vanessa and Associates. Can we screen share?
You certainly can, Giles.
No, they have it. Let me go to. There we go. Everybody see that?
Not yet.
Yep.
So what am I gonna hit?
You know, like double click on what you want to show, Giles. Here it comes.
There we go. All right, great. As you heard, the proposal is 485 apartment units plus 10,000 square feet of flex. It's going to be retail or a restaurant space. The site currently accommodates 224,000 square feet of space, of which is a 29,000 square foot data center and 195,000 of office space. And that space was occupied as recently as 2019. So that's kind of our base condition. This map just shows the study area. So we're looking at 7 locations. We're looking at the 3 traffic signals along North Avenue, the ramps, and then Quantipower Parkway. Kind of to the north or to the east, you got the 2 intersections at Lowell Street. It's kind of an internal intersection here. And then out on Lowell Street. And then we have the 2 weave areas just to the south or east of the ramps. So we would cover those two weave areas. So that's the proposed study area. We think that's pretty reasonable given this project, and it's a net increase from what's out there today or occupied out there today. I will tell you that from our prior work out here, we have July 2018 counts at all of these locations, so pre-COVID. And then we've done some supplemental counts that were February of 2020 for an update. So we have good data at this location pre-COVID. And we think, again, this is a reasonable study area for this project. And that's really it.
Okay, so I will start off by saying that when this came on the agenda, there's been a lot of concern about the potential of this project. And I know we looked at it not long ago for kind of a research and development lab, and it was pretty minimal increase with any trip generation, things like that. But the concern on my end is that this is going to add quite a bit of traffic in and out of this development. So I think that I'd like to expand the study a little more. I think there's other members of the committee that have some other ideas, but I think Main and Lowell definitely needs to be added to that, which is just a little bit further down.
Absolutely.
It's just another intersection that directly affects the other study points on the Lowell Street side. And there's a lot of other issues that I don't think we can really speak to yet. Like Brian was saying, it hasn't been proposed to the Board of Appeals yet, so we really won't know exactly what we're going to be looking at in terms of a development until you really get it before the Board of Appeals. So I think at this stage we can look at everything you propose looks good, with the exception of whatever the committee thinks should be added. I would like to add Main and Lowell. That would be an important one for me. Matt, what do you have on your end as far as this initial study?
Just for starters, I just felt like I should disclose that VHB has done work with CCNF in the past.
Okay.
Did my initial review of the letter before I knew that CCNF was involved. I don't see any issues with being impartial, but I just felt the need to disclose that. With that being said, my first question, Giles, is your letter, is that basically going to serve as your traffic scoping letter for MIPA, NASDOT? Or are you going to produce a separate scoping letter for that?
We have not reached out to MIPA yet, but we do feel that we'll probably end up filing an E&F for this project. Based upon the changes in traffic.
Okay. And just some of my initial, comments just based on the letter. I know the flex space is a little bit undefined, and the ITE data is not great for retail at that size, and especially for the morning peak hour. But I just feel like the flex space generation seems a little bit low, and that can sort of drive what kind of traffic we're going to see there in the morning and the evening. So I guess I would just request you take another look if you think what potential tenants might be, if there's a different way to use the ITE data or use different land use codes. It just feels like the AM numbers are a little bit low for the flex space.
Yeah, that's something we can look at. I think certainly given this location, I think a lot of it's going to be kind of internal capture. I don't look at this being really destination retail here, but
yeah,
I think the idea of that flex space is going to support what's out there today, and to support the pedestrian traffic around the lake. But we can bump it up a little bit. Certainly, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm just thinking it is off the main path, but it is near commuting corridors, and
Yeah.
if your restaurant space was something fast casual, I think it would there's definitely going to be a draw there. So I just want to see if there's another way to maybe capture that a little bit better for the flex space.
We can do that. Matt, are you aware of any recent counts that you may have, or the town may have at Main and Lowell? I think we have something that's, I'm guessing, several years old from when Cumberland Farms was put over there, but is there anything else that's recent?
I can take a look.
Okay.
I'm not aware off the top of my head, but I can take a look.
Okay, otherwise we can just do the counts and just bump them up from what we have out there.
Yeah, you have good base data, so if we don't find anything, then I think they're probably not going to be an issue adjusting them upwards.
Okay, great.
Bill, anything on your end? What you would like to see for this study?
No, I just think, you know, from a process standpoint for this board, we probably would like to see the input from MassDOT and the MEPA, you know, review done prior to coming back to us, because, you know, they're looking more big picture. So rather than us getting into the details, we should at least have the bigger picture stuff sorted out before you guys come back here.
So Giles, you said you hadn't talked to anyone at MassDOT yet?
Not on this project. We certainly have had discussions with them on the prior proposals there with
yeah, I
the
recall
research.
you. Yeah, I recall you.
I would expect that you know, we will eventually be filing with MEPA. You know, we'll be filing an environmental notification form, and I think that'll be it in terms of that process, because it is a net impact. It's comparing the occupancy of the prior office and data center to this project, and when you look at that, the increases aren't that dramatic. So, and that's kind of the same process we had with the last proposal here.
Yep, I'd just be curious to hear what their take is on it.
Correct.
All right, any other members of traffic advisory that would like to discuss this agenda item? All right, do I have anybody from RJ Kelly? I received correspondence from them regarding their concern about any future development here. In addition to that, they
Yes.
they
Yeah, this is Scott Kelly with RJ Kelly.
just repair that in the current condition of Quantipower Parkway and some issues as abutters. So Scott Kelly.
Yeah, this is Scott Kelly with RJ Kelly. We're happy to respect the fact that we don't have any plans to look at here, and we can kind of reserve comment for that at a later time. I think I do want to point out that, you know, Quantipower Parkway is it's actually a private road. It's not a town of Wakefield road, and it's shared by 3 property owners. Obviously, 200 Quantipower. We own 100 Quantipower, which is the 4-story office building. And then 50 Quantipower, which is effectively that little field between North Ave and our building. So there's really no improvements there. Our concern is the existing condition of the road. And I know there's been some, there was a meeting back in the springtime that was informal, brought to the town about the timing of this project. Obviously, it would have to get approved and it would have to get constructed. And that could be 3 to 5 years or so. But the current condition is in horrible. And per our easement agreement between the 3 property owners, 200 Quantipower has the responsibility of maintaining it. The rest of us have a responsibility to, you know, help finance it versus via the amount of percentage interest that we have in the road. For the last couple of years, we've been trying to get that done, or trying to encourage the current owner, which is not CCNF, they have it under agreement, to get the road repaired. We haven't been able to do that. For some reason, they're just not responding. We did come up with a plan with them. We agreed to it. They said they would get it done. But it's a safety concern as it exists today. You know, for our building is really the only, the 200 Quantipower, it's relatively empty at this point. Our building is full. Even during COVID, we have a significant amount of people there. And our tenants use it. The general public uses it. And of course, you know, emergency vehicles, police, fire, ambulance. So we're really concerned. We wanted this done before winter, repaired per the obligation in the easement agreement.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
can I jump in? This is Steve Mayo, town administrator. We've met on a couple of occasions. Nice to hear you. I don't have you on my screen right now. Can I suggest that we take this? This is kind of not a traffic advisory committee issue. I got your letter yesterday. Thank you for including me on the email, because I have driven that a number of times, and there is some that we need to look at. And I would suggest that that's something that maybe we could set up something with the current owner and the proposed owner, because to see what can be done, because I don't think this is a TAC issue, but this is a private issue. And I frankly didn't have a chance to read the easement, but I thank you for including that in your, I had enough trouble getting through your letter because I had another meeting last night. So could I suggest that, and maybe we can, because that's more of a private matter that I'd love to help facilitate?
Sure, that's fine. We're happy to do that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kelly, for your letter and joining us. Is there anybody else that would like to speak about item 4C, 200 Corner Power Parkway? Members of the public. All right, and any other members of the committee have anything as far as their future study that they'd like to point out? I think expanding this to Maine and Lowell is definitely needed, and they're obviously going to have some work to do with Mass DOT due to the rotary and on and off ramps for 128 on both sides. So we'll look forward to this in the future, unless there's anybody else that has anything. All right, Attorney McGrail, thank you. Unless you have anything else, I appreciate it.
No, thank you very much, Lieutenant. Appreciate your time, everybody.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 5. This is a request from a Plymouth Road resident for a dead-end street or not a through way sign. Pretty straightforward. I think they've probably seen an increase in traffic there with some of the construction going on with National Grid and construction on Foundry Street. Lynn Hossman from Plymouth Road writes that she has a 3-year-old, and a lot of people think that they can cut through, but it's a dead end. They usually loop back around at a high rate of speed while kids are outside playing. So she's just asking for a dead end or a no through street sign. I think it's pretty reasonable there, especially with people trying to cut through and avoid some of the traffic on Broadway. So anyone have anything on that? Chris, I think that's something that we can get done there. Chris Hunt?
Absolutely, sir.
You're the best. All right, I'd like to make a motion to install a dead end or not a throughway sign on Plymouth Road.
So
Second.
moved. Second. Whatever.
Moved by, was it Steve Mayo? Yeah.
Sure.
Second by who?
Matt.
Second by Matt. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. We will install that. Item,
Hunt how wonderful he is, by the way.
what's that?
Don't tell Mr. Hunt how wonderful he is.
No, I know. Someone's going to tell him once in a while. All right. Item 6, potential parking restrictions on Melvin Street Extension. This was a request from Mr. Larry Thack, who I believe is with us. Larry, you with us? He was with us earlier. Basically, he writes that Melvin Street Extension, which I'll share my screen here. 1 second. Everybody see that?
Yep.
So off of Water Street, there's Melvin Street, and Melvin Street Extension is a dead end by Nacella Playground. And there's some businesses in the back. We'll go to the street view. So we have Shellmar there, Water Street, and this is the extension of Melvin Street. So he reports that, especially during the daytime, there's cars lined up on both sides, reducing the roadway width. And typically, it might not be an issue, as you can see in this picture here, getting one lane of traffic through. But the problem is tractor trailers and commercial vehicles are having a hard time negotiating the turn onto Melvin Street Extension and getting to the back here, which will go back here a little ways. So there's the back of Shaw's, and then if you move further down to 1 Melvin Street Extension, you can see there's quite a few commercial vehicles there and commercial space in the back. So he reports frequent traffic backups onto Water Street due to the fact that there is parking on both sides of the street currently, and it in effect kind of bottlenecks there until a car either backs up or at some points they can't even get through. even if there isn't traffic oncoming. Any members of the public that would like to speak about Melvin Street Extension? I know we had some members of the public on here earlier. Bill, I'm going to turn this over to you because there was some concern about what was public and what was private here, but I think this end of Melvin Street Extension is public. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, I think we just have to decide which side makes more sense for restricting is kind of what I'm seeing here. So,
Right.
I think, looking at it, I would probably say we'd want to restrict the side with at the white building as opposed to the other side that has a sidewalk. I think it makes more sense to have, at least parking where the sidewalk is, but I'm open to suggestions from the group.
I agree. My only concern would be, do you know for sure if there's, if any of this is private or public here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I can research it. I can do the research for sure. But I believe that it's public up to, I think it's up to the Shaw's driveway, and then beyond that is when it turns to just, even though we own it, it's just not a public roadway.
Okay.
If I could say something, I'm Larry. I'm a tenant at Melvin Street.
Hi, Larry.
Hi. The building across the street, the white building, there's a gentleman that runs a garage out of the front, and there's always cars parked there because he's, got cars waiting to be repaired and whatnot. So there always seems to be cars parked on that side, even though it does make sense that the sidewalk side should have the parking, but there's always cars on the, I guess that would be what, the south or east side of the street.
Yep. So you're saying that we should, if we restrict parking, it should be on the sidewalk side? Then?
Yeah, on the Shaw's property.
Okay.
Yeah, and just for what it's worth, about a month ago, I watched a pretty big tractor trailer come in, and he had the those big rim bolts they have, and I watched the guy crush the door on a small car because he couldn't maneuver in through there because it was so tight.
You think it would make more sense though if they're coming in off of Water Street, especially from the Saugus end, to have that side clear for them though, Larry? To have the side by the white building clear. So
yeah, I guess I don't suppose I really care which side is clear, but I just think it's too narrow. I mean, we have car carriers come in there and all kinds of large tractors. I mean, there's, it's industrial condos, so there's loading docks and people get, I have AMA freight come in all the time, like twice a week with trailers.
You can definitely see that it's too narrow for that type of traffic. If it was just people going to the playground, wouldn't be as big of an issue, but having tractor trailers definitely changes things.
And that's a whole nother can of worms, because a lot of the people that go there for the ball games don't realize that it's actually a street, that it goes further out, to the and they sort of just park willy-nilly.
Right.
Yeah.
Bill, I did agree with you initially, but I think I'd like to make a motion to maybe restrict traffic on the sidewalk side. And the only reason being is the available parking space. We have a lot more spots here on the side. And I would typically agree with you. It'd be nice to get out onto a sidewalk, but I think I'd probably restrict it there. That way we have a little more available parking. Any other comments on that or ideas on that?
Sure, makes sense to me.
Could I just say one more thing? It is a beautiful sidewalk, but it never gets used ever for anything.
Okay.
Because it's not on the playground side, and the tenants that go to Shaw's cut around the back way around the side of the building.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else that would like to discuss this agenda item?
Hey Joe, it's Chris. I'm just wondering, because I do park down here for ball games. Is the whole safety part of it, with having kids getting out of the cars and everything on the right side, not getting out to the sidewalk, do you see that as being an issue? Because I'm just picturing kids coming out of their cars, and now there's cars coming around the corner, and there's no no other way for them to go because the fence is there, obviously.
No, that's true. That is a good point. I mean, there is parking down here though. And they're probably doing it now anyway, right? So at least it would give them a little more roadway width to avoid anyone getting out of the car.
I mean, it is mostly soccer because both fields get used for the soccer season, and that's when everything backs up and all the parking's taken. But just something to look into.
No, it is. It's a good point. Anybody else have any thoughts on that? I mean, I'm open to either. I'm kind of, and you bring up a good point with safety. I'm looking at available parking, so they're going to have potentially less places to park then, you know. And
Yeah, it is a little bit of a toss up. I mean, when we look at restricting on one side, we tend to look at, you know, what the effective curb space is. And on the sidewalk side, it looks like you lose, you know, one spot. You could probably get 4 cars in there,
Sure.
whereas you can see 5, you know, on the aerial. So, I mean, it's a difference of 1 car between one side or the other. I guess on the sidewalk side, there would probably be more people just trying to squeeze in at the end,
right.
you know, either too close to Water Street or too close to the Shaw's exit. I mean, the Shaw's loading area, which is probably a worse situation. But I see the safety of the sidewalk being a benefit. It's a bit of a toss up.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dale. And I don't want to obstruct the view of Water Street because that's definitely an issue. If this was a busier street, Chris, I think I would definitely lean toward eliminating the parking on the side of the building here. But since it's it's not really that busy of a street, with the exception of daytime commercial traffic, I think on the weekends we're talking about after hours. So I think I'm going to make a motion to restrict parking on the sidewalk end. So that would be the west side of Melvin Street Extension. So no parking here at the corner from the start of the sidewalk to Water Street.
All right, I'll make that motion, Lieutenant.
Okay. Have a second on that?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes with all in favor. So we'll restrict parking on the west side of Melvin Street Extension on the sidewalk end.
Great.
So we have here. All right, I think that's it. Is there anything that we missed?
The only thing I brought up is next meeting have Lafayette Street on. We'll notify the neighbors to talk about that.
Okay, that sounds good. Steve, should we invite anybody else? Because I know that may impact other decisions in town that might have been in the works. So
Yeah, I'll take care of that. Yep.
okay. Just want to make sure we get a well-rounded perspective of where things might be going in the future and what that might impact.
Absolutely.
And I think that's it, everybody. So I appreciate everybody's time. Unless any member of the public or I have Dan and Lois here.
Yes, have we resolved the problem as far as the handicap parking space in front of Cafe Italia?
So
Yeah.
yeah. So I had a long conversation with Leslie. What's her last name? Leslie.
Ryan.
Yeah, Leslie Scott, and yeah, thank you. And right now, we already have enough handicap spaces within that whole block for what's required by the public right-of-way accessibility guidelines. So when we looked at it, we felt that, you know, even moving the handicap space next to the Jersey barrier created more of an unsafe situation. So our intent was to basically replace that down the road when those outside cafes are removed. But we wouldn't put it in as an interim space because we have enough within the block.
So the closest handicap spot would be where, in the old town hall parking lot?
Yeah, actually on Smith Street, right across the street, the first spot on the right-hand side, right to the handicap ramp is a handicap space. I'm sorry?
That van accessible?
Well,
HV?
it's an on-street parking space, and then when you go into the parking lot, there are two spaces that are one's a van accessible spot, and then one is just a regular spot. And those were repainted.
I'd like to ask on van accessible, is that the only spot on the actual Main Street area that's van accessible for a handicap spot?
Yeah, because that's the only parking lot we have. So you can't have a van accessible spot on street typically, unless you have like a some type of head-in parking scenario. But
Somebody handicap could not get out on Main Street.
I'm sorry.
Dan.
Say it again. I'm sorry. Dan?
So somebody that used a van and was a handicapped person, there's no place on Main Street they could access the buildings or shops?
No, that's not the case. I mean, even if you're in a van accessible spot, you can still park in the handicap spaces on the street. So there is on-street parking. You still can use those. It's just you're not as protected, I guess, is kind of the way it works. But it meets the requirements of the public accessibility guidelines, so those are met. So, the van spaces are only within parking lots.
Okay.
All right. So we have it in the parking lot. We meet the number for the
Bringing that up, but we'll fight for every handicap spot we can get, and the more the better. And I don't want any handicap parking spaces reduced in the town, even with Envision coming on and everything. And also, ask another question, Bill. I know you had talked about, I was looking for parking stalls on Richardson between Foster and Main Street. And I've yet to see those put in. Plus, we're talking about that handicap spot on the corner, about moving it around or replacing it somewhere.
One more time, Dan. So you keep breaking up, so I'm getting like half of it, but go one more time.
In other words, the handicap spot that's right at Richardson and Main, right on the corner by the bread. I thought you had talked about moving that someplace too.
No, we kept that. We're leaving that where it is. We actually ended up moving the sign so that if you don't hit your door on the sign. We actually moved that to the head of the parking space to make that a little bit easier to use. But we kept that spot where it is.
The parking stalls are still waiting to be painted or coming up the street?
Yeah. The painting is going on this weekend, I think, right, Chris?
Yeah, there was some done, but I'm pretty sure that was done. But I can double check after this, and if not, we can do it Saturday.
Yeah, it was approved about 1.5 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we freshened that one up. I thought we freshened that up a couple weeks ago.
Should have already been done. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other question was on our outdoor dining, another handicap area that I noticed, matter of fact, this morning in the north end of Boston, they have wooden ramps that go from the curbing down to where you're eating. Somebody that's in a wheelchair would have to drop 5 or 6 inches down, and then they're stuck. Somebody would have to pull them back up again. So is it possible to get these outdoor dining areas with a small wooden ramp to make it more accessible for handicapped people?
Steve, I don't have a problem with that. Do you?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that, but I imagine by the time, maybe that'll be for next year, by the time we get them in and done, we'll be too cold.
Yeah. So when we laid these,
people don't time, they need it.
When we laid them out, there was thought about having it in like at least a table or two on the sidewalk so that you wouldn't have to ramp down. But that was the initial intent. But we can take a look at them for when they get redeployed next year for sure.
And like I say, excuse me for bringing these up like that. I know it's extra work for cafes, restaurants in order to do this, but everybody has to have that accessibility. And
I agree.
We'll fight for it. And we might not be popular doing it, but we'll fight for the handicap spots.
No, I don't disagree with it at all. I mean, to be honest with you, we probably could look at that shared streets money, Steve.
Exactly.
To get like a removable metal ramp that we can use for stuff. So let me take a look into that. We had a couple of other spots we were looking at getting grant money for too. So let me take a peek at that, and maybe we can get the money for it and have them ready for next year.
Okay, and another spot again. Like I hate to go on and on, but in front of the food pantry at the old Armory, the Americal, you're missing one handicap sign on one side.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's the school department's parking lot or not. I think it is.
Well, we could take a look at it. I'll take a look.
Bill and Steve, did you guys get shared street money this year?
We applied for it, but we were a little fast in deploying everything, so they basically said no because we already had our little cafes built.
Yeah, the timing of it was odd. You know, by the time the funding was available, a lot of towns had already done, you know, what they needed to do.
Yeah, so we're looking at potentially a rapid beacon at the high school, at one of the 2 crosswalks that we've installed over there, and then I think the ramps would be a good idea. And then I think what Melrose had done is rather than going with the concrete, they did a grant to have kind of better looking corrals, for a better term. So I've been talking with Elena over there about getting what they applied for, so maybe I can steal that because they got funding for it. So.
Question.
Oh, hey, Lois.
Hi, I have a question regarding farmland and coming in and going out. Shouldn't they have a sign or something? Go into a one-way sign.
Probably. It is a one-way, right? It's an in from.
I think they have two one-way signs. Very hard to see if you're coming down Main Street quickly. But we have brought up the fact of painting a white arrow like they have on Armory Street saying it's one way. Because once a car makes that turn and they trying to go into farmland the wrong direction, believe me, it's a catastrophe in there.
Right, but didn't we added in do not enter signs on the end of that as one of these meetings, I recall, right?
It's hard to see when you're coming down Main Street at any speed to see that on the corner. The side of the building actually blocks it.
Okay.
So a sign on the,
So if anything, maybe the sign a little further up a few feet.
and an arrow maybe on the ground?
Folks, thoughts?
Yeah, Bill, I'll take a look at that with you and see if there's anything we can improve on there. That's,
Yeah, let me know when you want to zip out there.
All right.
We'll take a walk together.
all right. Anybody else have anything? All right, make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:42.
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
Thank you. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, take care.
Right, everybody. See ya.